Welcome to our long-awaited Warhammer 4th edition battle report today, proudly sponsored by Black Arrow Minis, which now have over 300 new items in stock. So please go and check them out now at www.blackarrowminis.com today. Today we feature a battle report written and developed by our very own Nigel Stillman of the group Nick, as he takes the recent armies painted by Eavylead Studios and pits them against each other in this 4th edition scenario, with Paul taking the Dwarves and I the Undead. The Undead, led by Heinrich Kemmler, are up to no good in the blasted wastes, and Ungrim leads the Dwarves from the Slayer fortress of Karak Kadrin to slay these animated puppets to dust. He is not alone, however, and many of his Slayer kin have travelled with him to seek their death in the glory of battle with their king. Standing to defy the Dwarves are Kemmler's legion of Undead. He is also accompanied by a vampire count and a horde of skeletons to serve the necromancer's bidding. Kemmler's Undead are here to defend against Ungrim's patrol, which now surrounds a graveyard and a chapel, long lost and now forgotten. Can Ungrim defeat the army of darkness and free the land of Kemmler's necromancy? Or will it be the dark powers of Heinrich and his legion to overwhelm the stoic dwarves? Well, let's find out as we get underway and play the edition that began the age of Herohammer. Nick had Paul first deploy all his Dwarven units around the 3 sides of the chapel, and for the purposes of fighting inside the chapel, we used a suitable room tile from the advanced heroquest set. I then got to place my units to counter the deployment of the beer-bellied dwarves. Heinrich Kemmler was placed suitably to face Ungrim and his Slayer kin at the arched doors of the chapel. As with Ungrim, Heinrich comes with preset items. As the Undead player, I got to use necromantic spells from the Arcane Magic supplement for 4th edition and drew my spells for both Heinrich and the Vampire Count. It was also nice to use some of the cardstock aids that came with the White Dwarf publications, such as the Dwarf Rune Sheet. And with the battleground now drawn for combat, it was time to get the first turn of the game underway, with the Dwarves taking the first turn of the game. Did my eyes deceive me, as the Longbeards were in charge range of the zombie unit? Curses! Terror checks were rolled and passed, and the gyrocopter steamed its way alongside the skull tower and began to stoke the tanks for a burst of hot stuff, and the dwarf miners closed in on the undead archers. And Ungrim, with his orange-bearded brethren, marched towards the doors of the chapel, unnerved by the necromancer's eerie presence. In the dwarves' shooting phase, the gyrocopter pilot pulled the trigger and managed to clean the bones of one skeleton horseman. And the swig of Triple X Bugler's beer certainly helped to steady the aim of their crossbow bolts, as the remaining skeleton cavalry were reduced to broken bones and one wound inflicted on the mounted wight. In the hand-to-hand combat phase, the Longbeards had no issue in obliterating the animated corpses of the zombies, as they exploded under the sheer weight of dwarven steel and strength. Paul was at the mercy of the winds of magic in the game, as without a wizard and no runesmith to shield them from the runes of spellbreaking, I cast summon skeletons and added a single skellybob to the chapel's defences. What the dwarves lacked in magic, they certainly made up for in might and stubbornness, and it was up to the undead to break their spirits. Chariot countercharged the Longbeards in their soft flanks, and on passing a fear check, they held their nerves to brace the impact. The Lone Wraith moved through solid stone due to its ethereal ability, and Heinrich was able to do the same with his Cloak of Shadows that he cast in the previous turn. Ungrim, sensing sorcery, he shouted dwarven insults, calling the necromancer a coward and to shave his goatee. Undead giant carrion with their undead masters swooped in behind the rangers, unsettling the dwarves as they heard the flapping of tattered wings and the cold chill of death on the back of their hairy necks. The undead are not really renowned for their bowmanship, but these skeleton archers were able to fell a single miner to his early grave. And the undead catapult crew needed eyeballs in their dark, empty sockets as they totally misjudged the distance, and they could hear the old man grumble inside the chapel sanctuary as it veered off and hit the undead chariot, with the impact crushing one of the two undead steeds. Kemmler did, however, offer a wry smile as he saw the chariot crush many of the Longbeards under the impact of bone on steel, and several brave dwarves lost their lives. Many of their long-bearded kin crushed under the wheels of the chariot. Their hearts sank, and they turned and fled, resulting in the single-steeded chariot overrunning them and crushing them under their boned hooves and wheels. It also brought the chariot crashing into the outskirts of the forest edge, and fate smiled on me again, as I only rolled one impact hit, which did structural damage with a single wound. The winds of magic blew across the battlefield, and Heinrich summoned 3 more skeletons to bolster the ranks in the chapel. Kemmler uttered the words to animate the skeleton archers once again to draw another bow from their quivers with the spell Van Hell's Dance Macabre, resulting in another dwarf to hit the turf, thus ending the magic phase. Paul's patience with those pesky bony archers run out, and the miners charge the wall that defended them, passing their fear check. Ungrim's runic axe bit into the ancient door of the chapel, smashing it asunder as they charged in. And the Bugman Rangers realigned to face the winged terrors that flapped before them. Steam bellowed around the Rangers as the gyrocopter manoeuvred to have its steam rain down on the carrion, which resulted in a single wound on the winged beasts. The skeleton archers, now in combat with the miners, protected by the stone wall before them, were able to match the dwarves in melee, and saw them draw combat this round. Ungrim Iron Fist embedded his axe into the vampire's skull in a surprise charge that saw the Slayer entrenched within the doorway of the chapel, with undead foe all around them. Could this be the glorious death they have sought since shaving their heads and beards? I wonder. As the magic flowed through Kemmler, he cast a Van Hell spell on the skeletons in the chapel to attack the invading Slayers. And then cast it again, as that is the magical mastery bestowed to all necromancers, but the dwarves were blessed by Grudge with a successful dispel this time. The undead turn began with the carrion charging the gyrocopter when the pilot's nerve broke, and he veered his flying steam machine towards a table edge with the carrion in pursuit. Blessed with some good dice rolling, I managed to unensnare the chariot from the forest and tangled dead branches and point it to the attention of the Slayers at the chapel's entrance. And the mounted wight, following the direction of Kemmler's command, had it positioned to charge next turn. The Skullchucker crew pivoted the war machine in the direction of the Bugman Rangers, but yet again their aim fell short. Their flaming, chattering skull fell far short of their intended target. The miners managed to overpower the skeleton archers and breach the wall. Inside the chapel, Ungrim challenged Kemmler, but the Necromancer Lord decided to decline and retreat to safety. Ungrim, undeterred by Kemmler's cowardice, continued to mount a pile of bones of the undead before him and his slayers. In the graveyard, the dead were raised from their graves as the scenario allowed an extra D6 skeletons to be summoned, which produced a brand new unit to form a rear charge next turn. Kemmler also cast his Cloak of Shadows to offer a veil of protection. The dwarves, hearing Ungrim curse and kill, their hearts swell with courage and regroup to push up and close in now to the depleted line of undead defense. The Dwarven miners overcame the undead archers and saw them crumble as they lost combat. And the Slayers under Ungrim's command shattered every last skeleton they faced. Even the 4th edition wiki was needed, as Kemmler's fate now uncertain, having lost the combat. He failed his leadership test and fled the chapel in sanctuary from Ungrim's wrath. The Karen returned to the battle in a hope to gnaw at the fat flesh of the Rangers in the next turn. And the Mounted White ordered the Skeleton Warriors to charge in on the red-haired Slayers in a vain hope to stop the inevitable. The soul-steeded chariot galloped to crush the flank of the death cultists and the Mounted White on the opposite flank. Kemmler, regaining his senses, rallied and flipped through his spellbook to find a vital spell to thwart these stubborn dwarves. And with the Skullchucker crew finally having set the distance correctly, I rolled a misfire, seeing one of the crew crumble and the war machine ineffective for a whole turn. The Skeleton Warriors, Chariot and White caused significant wounds to the Slayers, but it was all for naught, given their unbreakable nature of the Troll Slayers, resulting in Ungrim claiming the chapel and restoring peace to this part of the blasted wastes. As for Heinrich Kemmler, well, he vanished under the spell of his Cloak of Shadows, but I'm sure he'll be plotting his revenge soon enough. Thanks to both Nick and Paul for contributing towards this battle report. I really enjoyed the scenario and the lovely terrain that Nick had made for our games of Warhammer. And I'm happy to announce the winner for that very terrain. So congratulations to Darklighter66 for winning the competition, and please get in touch with me at eavylead@gmail.com so I know where to post the parcel. And as for what to expect in the future, look forward to some classic Warhammer Renaissance with patrons and friends here in Japan. I recently got to meet up with one of my mates and patrons here, Adam, in Japan, to play with his gorgeously painted Forest Goblin army. It was a real treat to play against Adam, and we also have another special battle report planned for next year sometime. And for those who like to sail the high seas of the old world, you can expect to see me, the hobgoblin-bellied twat of Tzinch, take the Chaos Fleet against Nick, using a freshly painted Empire fleet from my mate and patron Courtney in Australia. Before then though guys, please head over to catch our 200th episode of the Crown of Command podcast with Owen Staten and his Tales from Wales, and also head over to the Crown of Command Patreon where you can access for free more content like podcasts and videos. And finally, a massive thank you to all my amazing patrons that help support me make these videos regularly for you. And for those watchers of the channel that like those swearing bloopers, here you go. And as for... fuck. And as for Heinrich Himmler, well... well, he was last seen taking... fuck! Given the unbreakable nature of the Troll Slayers, resulting in Ungrim claiming the chapel and restoring fuck me.